Have you ever felt like all the doors were closed to you? As if no matter how hard you tried, nothing happened and the path was blocked? The truth is hard but needs to be said. There's no use forcing doors that God hasn't opened. Many times, we insist on following our own ways, forgetting that only God has the power to open the right doors. And you know what's worse? While you're trying to open the wrong doors, you might be ignoring the opportunity God has already placed before you. But here's the good news. New doors are opening. God is preparing paths of victory, opportunities you never imagined. But to walk through these doors, you need something essential: faith and obedience. The time to act is now. Don't let fear or doubt stop you from living the extraordinary life God has for you. So, before moving forward, subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. And don't forget to watch the suggested video on the side to further strengthen your faith. Now let's discover together how God can open doors of opportunities and break down every barrier in your life. When everything seems to be falling apart and doors are closing, it's easy to believe that we're alone. But the truth is, God is not limited by the circumstances surrounding us. He specializes in opening doors where we only see walls. Imagine someone facing unemployment or struggling to maintain peace in the family. In moments like these, it's common to feel trapped, but that's precisely when God acts with the most power. He creates paths where there are no trails and opportunities where there was only despair. It's during these times of struggle that faith must be stronger than fear. God never promised a life without challenges, but He did promise to be with us in every one of them. Trusting in that promise changes how we face difficulties. A practical example: instead of complaining or despairing, take 5 minutes out of your day to give thanks for something simple. This act of gratitude makes room for God to work. When we focus on what He has already done, we strengthen our trust that He will do even more. Knowing that God is in control brings deep relief. No matter how big the storm is, He is still greater. This certainty prepares us to understand that His promises are firm and that incredible doors will soon open. But to see those doors, we need to dive into the truths that God's Word reveals to us. God's promises are anchors that sustain our faith in the most difficult moments. When He says in Jeremiah 32:27, "I am the Lord, the God of all mankind. Is anything too hard for me?" He is reaffirming that no obstacle, no matter how big it seems, is impossible for His power. Imagine someone dealing with an unpayable debt or an illness that medicine cannot explain. This verse isn't just comfort, it's a guarantee that God can intervene supernaturally in any situation. Another powerful example is found in Isaiah 41:10. "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God." Here God reminds us that He is present, holding our hands even when the path seems dark. A practical way to apply this promise is to write these verses on paper and place them in strategic places, on the refrigerator, the mirror, or your phone screen. Every time you look at these words, you will be reminded that God is your sustenance and that He never fails. These promises are not just ancient words, they remain alive and effective today. When we take hold of these truths, our perspective changes, and we begin to face challenges with courage and hope. And it is precisely through the stories in the Bible that we practically see how God fulfills His promises and transforms impossible situations. The Bible is full of stories that show how God intervenes powerfully in moments of crisis, turning impossible situations into great victories. A remarkable example is the crossing of the Red Sea in Exodus 14:13-14. Imagine the despair of the Israelites, surrounded by the Egyptian army with the sea before them. But God opened a way where there was no way out. This teaches us that even when everything seems lost, God can open unexpected doors. In modern situations, it could be that promotion that seemed unreachable, or the healing of a disease considered irreversible. Another impressive example is the story of Joseph, who was sold as a slave by his own brothers, and years later became the governor of Egypt, Genesis 50:20. What seemed to be the end of his dreams was in fact the beginning of a grand plan. The same happens with us. Doors that close or moments of pain may actually be the path to something much greater. Therefore, when facing difficulties, it is essential to remember that God is in control of everything and that nothing happens by chance. These biblical stories are more than ancient accounts. They are living proofs that God acts today in the same way. And understanding how He transformed impossible situations in the past strengthens our faith to believe that He will do the same in our lives. This prepares us to understand that trusting in God's timing is fundamental for victory to come in a complete and perfect way. Trusting in God's timing is one of the greatest challenges of faith. After all, who hasn't felt frustrated by praying and not seeing an immediate answer? But the truth is that God's timing is perfect, even when it seems slow. In Jeremiah 29:11, He reminds us, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." This means that many times doors close not to punish us, but to protect us and redirect us to something much greater. How many times have you desired something so intensely, only to realize later that you weren't ready for it? God sees beyond what we can see. Imagine someone praying earnestly for a promotion at work, but not receiving it. Over time, a better opportunity arises at another company, far superior to the previous one. That is God working, organizing everything so that blessings come at the right time. This is why it's essential to cultivate patience and trust that every no or not yet from God carries a purpose. When we accept that God's timing is different from ours, we live with more peace and hope. We stop being frustrated by closed doors and begin to see every waiting period as preparation. And with this trust in God's divine timing, we can walk in faith, ready to obey and step through the doors that God opens. When God opens a door, it takes courage and faith to walk through it. Often, the fear of the unknown or insecurity can paralyze us, even when clear opportunities arise. In Revelation 3:8, God says, "See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut." This shows us that if God has opened a door, no circumstance or person can prevent you from walking through it. But the decision to step forward is yours. Imagine someone who has always dreamed of starting a business, but hesitates out of fear of failure. God may be opening doors, but without steps of faith, nothing happens. Walking by faith does not mean being free of fear, but it means trusting that God is guiding every step. Practically, this could be as simple as accepting an invitation to lead a prayer group, investing in a new project, or even moving to a new city in response to God's direction. Every step requires faith, but also obedience. God doesn't reveal the entire path but illuminates the next step. And it's in this daily walk that we see His promises fulfilled. When we are willing to step through the doors God opens, we discover a world of possibilities and growth. Even if the journey isn't easy, He promises to be with us in every challenge. But to live out these promises, it's essential to strengthen our spirit with sincere prayers, seeking strength and direction directly from the Father. Prayer is the key that unlocks closed doors and removes obstacles that seem insurmountable. When we surrender in sincere and powerful prayer, we acknowledge that we don't have control over everything and place our battles in God's hands. It's in this moment of vulnerability that He begins to act supernaturally. Imagine someone who has been fighting for years for healing, a job or family restoration. A deep prayer with a broken and humble heart has the power to move heaven and transform realities. But this prayer must be specific and full of faith. It's not enough to simply ask. It's necessary to declare with authority what you believe. For example, instead of praying, "Lord, help me if it's possible," pray boldly, "Lord, I believe in your power and declare that every barrier in my life will be broken in your name." This kind of prayer, one that renounces fear and embraces faith, releases God's power to move. It's also essential to ask for forgiveness, rebuke fear, and declare deliverance over every area of life. When we make prayer an essential part of our daily routine, we create space for God to guide and strengthen us through difficulties. It is through this daily connection with the Father that we find the strength not only to wait, but to act according to His will. After all, true victory isn't just about praying. It's about praying with faith, persistence, and the expectation that God is already moving the pieces for our breakthrough. And now I ask you, what doors has God already opened in your life that you haven't had the courage to walk through? How many opportunities have you missed because of fear, insecurity, or relying more on your own strength than on God's power? Maybe today is the day to change that story. Don't wait any longer. Pray boldly, declare God's promises over your life, and take the first step toward the new thing He has prepared for you. Share in the comments, what area of your life do you need to fully surrender to God to experience a true breakthrough? Your experience could inspire others to trust in God's work as well. Let's strengthen this chain of faith together. And if this message spoke to you, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share this video with someone who also needs to hear this word. Oh, and don't forget to watch the suggested video right here. It will deepen your faith and help you boldly walk through the doors God has opened. May the Lord bless you powerfully.